plant on a shelf is not biophilic design. Biophilic design is what happens when a room is built around how the human nervous system actually responds to the natural world. The first principle that genuinely biophilic apartments get right is one that most discussions of natural light miss entirely: the distinction between light quantity and light quality. Adding more light to a room, larger windows, lighter paint colors, more reflective surfaces, addresses quantity. What biophilic design addresses is quality, the specific character of light that changes across the day, shifts with the season, and casts shadows that move. Research in environmental psychology establishes that the human nervous system responds to dynamic, changing light differently from static, uniform light at the same intensity. Dynamic light, the kind produced by an east-facing window that delivers bright morning light and afternoon shade, or a west-facing one that catches the specific amber of late afternoon, tells the brain something about the time of day and the quality of the outdoor environment in a way that constant, uniform brightness does not. This connection between light quality and time perception is one of the specific mechanisms by which natural light reduces cortisol levels, and it requires actual variation in the light rather than simply more of it. The practical implication for a small apartment is specific. Prioritize the quality of natural light reaching the room before addressing quantity. Leave windows unobstructed not because more light is always better, but because the variation in that light, the morning angle, the afternoon shift, the changing shadow, is the element doing the neurological work. Biophilic design literature consistently lists acoustic connection to nature as one of its core principles, and it is the one that virtually no interior design guide ever addresses, because it requires thinking about the apartment not as a visual environment, but as a sound environment, and most design content is entirely visual. The specific acoustic elements that research connects to reduced stress and improved well-being are natural sounds, water moving, wind and leaves, birdsong at a level that registers as ambient rather than demanding. These are sounds the nervous system has been calibrated to read as safe environmental signals across evolutionary history, and they produce measurably lower cortisol levels than the urban acoustic environment of traffic, mechanical HVAC noise, and the specific low-frequency hum of electrical equipment that most apartments contain. A genuinely biophilic apartment addresses this deliberately rather than leaving the acoustic environment to chance. A small water feature positioned to produce a gentle, consistent sound of moving water. Windows open specifically during the hours when ambient outdoor sound is closer to natural than mechanical. A fan or white noise source that masks urban noise without introducing a new mechanical signal of its own. Each of these addresses what the nervous system hears as well as what the eye sees, and the combination of visual and acoustic connection to natural environments produces a quality of calm that visual design alone structurally cannot. Most approaches to natural materials in interior design focus primarily on color, warm wood tones, the green of plants, the cream of natural linen, because color is the most immediately visible quality of any surface. Biophilic design research suggests the priority should be reversed. The tactile quality of a surface, its texture, and the specific way it responds to touch and to light produces a deeper neurological connection to natural environments than its color does. The mechanism relates to how the brain processes materials it recognizes from the natural world. A rough linen weave, a hand-thrown ceramic with slight asymmetry, a wooden surface with visible grain that the hand can feel. Each of these engages the tactile system in a way that smooth, synthetic, uniform surfaces cannot, regardless of what color those surfaces are. The brain reads the texture as biological, as something that came from a living thing or was made by a human hand rather than by a manufacturing process, and that reading produces the specific quality of ease associated with biophilic environments. In practice, this means that two apartments might contain identical natural-colored objects, but the one where those objects have genuine tactile variation, where the linen has honest weave structure, the ceramics show the marks of making, the wood has genuine grain depth, will feel more biophilic than the one where the same colors are present in smooth, manufactured, texturally uniform alternatives. Color is the signal. Texture is the substance. Biophilic design treats the view from a window not as an incidental feature of an apartment's location, but as a primary design element to be positioned, framed, and considered with the same deliberateness as any piece of furniture or artwork in the room. This reflects a specific body of research, including the foundational work by environmental psychologist Roger Ulrich in the 1980s, which found that hospital patients with a window view of nature recovered measurably faster than identical patients with a view of a wall. That establishes natural views as a genuine health intervention rather than simply an aesthetic preference. Most apartments cannot control what their windows face, but they can control how those windows are treated and how the room is oriented toward them. Furniture arranged to prioritize sight lines to a window over visual composition within the room. Curtains that frame rather than cover. A chair positioned specifically so that sitting in it provides the room's best available view, even if that view is simply a section of sky and the top of one tree. The specific practice of sitting at that window regularly, for a few minutes each day, doing nothing except looking at what is outside it. This last practice, deliberately attending to the natural view rather than treating the window as a light source and nothing more, is the biophilic principle that requires no design change whatsoever and that produces real, research-supported neurological benefit. It is also the one almost nobody does. Fractal geometry, the self-similar pattern that repeats at multiple scales, found in coastlines, tree branches, snowflakes, and the structure of almost every natural form, has been the subject of specific neuroscientific research into why natural environments feel restorative in a way that built environments often do not. The research, associated particularly with physicist Richard Taylor, has found that fractal patterns at a specific range of complexity produce measurable reductions in physiological stress indicators, and that this response is involuntary. It occurs before any conscious appreciation of the pattern and regardless of whether the viewer is aware of what a fractal pattern is. The specific complexity level that produces the strongest stress reduction response sits in a mid-range, complex enough to engage the visual system without requiring conscious effort to process, simple enough to resolve into legible repetition rather than chaos. Natural forms, plant leaves, wood grain, the branching of a tree, typically fall within this range automatically, which is one mechanism behind why plants and natural materials produce the biophilic effect beyond their obvious visual association with nature. In a small apartment, this principle can be applied deliberately by introducing forms that carry fractal-like structure. A large plant with genuinely branching structure rather than a single stem specimen. Of all 8 principles in this video, this is the one most completely absent from mainstream interior design content, despite being one of the most consistently supported in biophilic design research. The deliberate introduction of slight thermal variation, small, safe changes in temperature across different zones or times of day, as a means of connecting the indoor environment to the natural rhythm of outdoor conditions. Natural environments are never thermally uniform. Mornings are cooler than afternoons. Shade is cooler than sun. A breeze from an open window produces a moment of coolness that the skin registers before the eye has processed anything about the view beyond the glass. These variations are not discomforts. They are signals, and the nervous system reads them as information about the natural world in the same way it reads light quality and natural sound. Environments that are thermally uniform, held at the same temperature in every zone at every hour, deprive the nervous system of this category of information entirely. The practical application in a small apartment is genuinely simple. A window opened in the morning to allow cooler air before closing it for the afternoon. A warmer seating area near a south-facing wall contrasted with a cooler reading spot near the window. A gentle ceiling fan that produces air movement rather than temperature change. None of these are dramatic interventions. All of them are telling the nervous system something the natural world would tell it. That conditions change, that time is passing, that the environment is alive. A small water feature in a home interior is often dismissed as a novelty, pleasant if you happen to like that kind of thing, irrelevant to serious design. Biophilic design research suggests a more specific mechanism. Moving water produces a consistent, broadband sound that the nervous system categorizes as a natural environmental signal, and that categorization produces measurable reductions in perceived stress independently of whether the water is visible or even consciously noticed. The specific acoustic quality of moving water, the irregular, non-repeating sound produced by water over a surface or falling a small distance, is distinct from both silence and from mechanical or electronic sound in ways the auditory system processes automatically. It is one of the sounds most consistently associated in neuroscience research with environments that are evolutionary history coded as safe and resource-rich, which is the underlying reason it feels relaxing rather than irritating in the way that many other consistent background sounds do. A small apartment does not need a significant water feature to access this effect. A tabletop fountain producing a few inches of falling water is sufficient to introduce the acoustic signal that the research associates with the biophilic response. The eighth and final principle is the one that requires no object, no redesign, no budget, and no specific material or plant, and that produces genuine, research-supported biophilic benefit in any apartment that applies it, regardless of how it is currently furnished or how far it is from anything green. The principle is deliberate, regular, attentive contact with whatever natural elements the apartment already contains or can access, not passive coexistence. Plants present but never consciously noticed, a window that is looked through without being looked at, but active, intentional attention directed toward the natural qualities of the environment for a specific portion of each day. Tending plants with genuine attention rather than as a chore. Sitting at the window and looking at the sky, the weather, the available light for 10 minutes each morning rather than immediately looking at a screen. Noticing the specific quality of the light in the room at different hours of the day. This is a behavioral practice rather than a design intervention, which is precisely why it never appears in interior design content and precisely why it is the most powerful thing on this list. Every piece of research that finds measurable benefit from natural environments finds that the benefit requires actual engagement with those environments, not just proximity to them. Plants that are there but unnoticed do not produce the biophilic effect.